let's take a look at creating a scatter plot using Python. So a survey was given to 268 people, and the head and tail of the resulting data frame can be seen below. So when you click this button, you can see the head, or the first 5 entries, first 5 observations, and also the tail, which is the last 5 observations of a data frame. This data frame has gender as the first variable, height as the second variable, weight, ages, married, race, and education. Those are the variables in this data set. So I'm going to go ahead then, and I'm going to click this download CSV to download a CSV of that exact same data. So when I click this, you can see it's downloaded the CSV called rawdata.csv to my hard drive. So I'm going to use Python to create a scatter plot with the heights and the weights of the subject. And then I'm going to sort the points by gender. And then I'm going to paste the scatter plot in the answer box below. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and create the scatter plot. I won't go through the copying and the pasting. So I have my data set downloaded as a CSV, and now I'm going to open up Google Colab so I can do some Python here. And the libraries from Python I'm going to use are pandas and Seaborn. So I'm going to import them and give them aliases. I'm going to import pandas as the alias PD. So anytime I want to call pandas, I can just call it PD. And I'm also going to import Seaborn, and I'm going to give it the nickname SNS. So I'm importing pandas as PD and Seaborn as SNS. The reason I want to use pandas is pandas will allow me to create a data frame. So df is the name I'm going to give my data frame, and then I'm going to use pandas by calling it by its alias PD, and then I'm going to use one of its methods. One of the methods of pandas that I'm going to use here is called read_CSV. This will allow me to read in a CSV file and change it to a data frame. So I'm going to open the parenthesis, put a single quote in there, and inside of the single quote I'm going to put the file path to the CSV file I just downloaded. But the file path that I'm going to use has to be a file path in my Google Drive. So I first have to get that CSV file uploaded to my Google Drive. Here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to come over here to the Files menu, the thing that looks like a file folder. I'm going to click the Files menu. Then when the Files menu opens up, one of the buttons up here, one of the icons, is the Upload to Session Storage icon. When I click that, it'll allow me to search my hard drive and find the raw data CSV I just downloaded. So here it is right here. That's the raw data CSV I just downloaded. Now your file might have a different name. Mine was called raw data when I downloaded it. And now I just need the path to this file in my Google Drive. So I come over to these 3 vertical dots and I click copy path. So I click the vertical dots, the 3 vertical dot, and then I click copy path. So first I clicked here, then I click copy path. And then once I copy the path, I'm going to come over inside of the single quote in the read CSV method. I'm just going to paste that file path. So now there it is. This is the path you would take to get to the raw data.csv in my content drive. And just to make sure it's the correct data frame, I'm going to do df, which is the name that I gave the data frame. And this data frame has its own methods now. One of the methods of the data frame is HEAD, the head method, which just gives us the first 5 observations in the data frame. And when I take a look, this is the same data frame. It has gender, heights, weights, ages, marital status, race, and education. This is the correct data frame. So now that I have my data frame created in Python, I'm going to now use Seaborn, which I called SNS, to actually create the scatter plot. So I'm going to add another code cell down here by clicking here, or I could have clicked up here to add a code cell. And now that I've added a code cell, this is the code cell I'm going to type the Seaborn code into. So SNS is the library Seaborn that I have imported, but SNS Seaborn has a method that I can use to set the size of the figure. So SNS.set, I'm going to open a parenthesis, and then inside of that parenthesis I'm going to create a dictionary and call it RC. This dictionary, I'm going to open a curly bracket to create my dictionary. The first key in this dictionary is going to be this. It's going to be a string that says figure dot fig size, and then I'm going to set the fig size now, the figure size, as an ordered pair. So I'm going to open up a parenthesis. So you see this was my key. Then I put the colon between my key, and the value is going to be an ordered pair with the width and the height of the figure I want to make. So I want this to make this figure a 10 by 4. So it'll be 10 by 4 the figure. And that will set the figure size. Now I'm going to call SNS again, and SNS have another method called Scatterplot. So Scatterplot is a method from SNS, and all I have to do is feed it a few things. One of the things I have to give it is the data source. I'm going to call that data, and the data source is the data frame called DF. So I've said data source, or data, is equal to DF, and that tells Scatterplot, the Scatterplot method, that I want to take the data from DF. Then I have to tell it which variables in the data frame I actually want to create the Scatterplot from. So first I'm going to give it the X variable, and if you remember, we wanted to create a data frame with the heights as the X variable and weights as the Y variable. So I'm going to make a single quote here, and I'm going to put in here heights. So that's the variable height is going to be on the X-axis. And then I'm going to make another comma, and then I'm going to let the Y variable be. So now I'm setting the Y variable. So I have Y equals, and that one I wanted to let be the weight. So weight, so a single quote and then weight. So the Scatterplot method, I'm feeding it three things so far. I'm feeding it X, which is the height from the data frame DF, Y, which is the weight from the data frame DF, and of course I set data equal to DF. And when I run this, it'll give me the scatter plot that I was looking for here. So here's the scatter plot of height on the x-axis. As you can see, there's height on the x-axis, weight on the y-axis. That's the scatter plot. They also wanted me to separate this by gender. To separate it by gender, I do have to set one other parameter here. So to separate it by gender, the other parameter that I need to set is called the hue. And I'm going to let the hue be a categorical variable that I want to separate these ordered pairs by. And the categorical variable they wanted me to use was gender. So one of the variables up here was gender, the very first variable. So I'm going to separate it into males and females, those ordered pairs, by setting the hue equal to single quote gender. And when I run this now, I get a scatter plot, but the males are in blue and the females are in orange. So there you see the gender being separated out in this scatter plot. And that's how you create a scatter plot and even separate the scatter plot based on a single categorical variable.